This podcast is sponsored by Panda Design, a design company specializing in graphic and web design along with complete brand and marketing solutions. Visit www.pandadesign.com, that's double I in design, and mention Gooner Ramble for 10% discount on orders over £250.
Hello and welcome to a Gooner Ramble. I'm your host James, and joining me this evening we've got three great regulars as always. We got Mark. Mark, how you doing, mate?
I'm alright, JJ, thank you.
Good. And we've also got Akhil. Akhil, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. And we've also got Woz. Woz, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, superb, mate. Good. Thanks very much.
Nice. Well, I'm just going to put the warning here. You've heard the names. If you don't want to listen because Clive's not on, by all means, now is your time to click the box off. If you have stuck with us, thank you so much.
I'm off the bench.
I've not even made the bench. I don't even know. I'm like under 23s. Like I'm the elder statesman.
I asked him yesterday.
Well, I plan to be like Niles and Jeff. Take my chance, mate.
Yeah. Talking of Niles and Jeff, the lineup yesterday. When I saw theirs, I was a bit like, okay, understandable. And they were saying, I think Claude Puel was on BT Sports saying that they've been ravaged with injuries since the game at Liverpool midweek. And then I saw our lineup as well, and I was actually generally quite happy. Wasn't Akhil, you were there? What was everybody says there's that hour when the lineup gets announced. What was it like inside the ground when the team was out? Was people, where's fucking Ozil, where's Ramsey? Or were they people quite excited?
Axe, do you want to go or I'll go? Because I'm normally the one who's normally moaning about the lineup. To be honest with you, mate, I was really just enjoying my day, and for the first time in a long time, I don't think I was that worried, and I was actually more excited about the power and pace we had in that starting 11, and right, we're back with the full-backs. We've got Bellerin and Gibbs, and that's just proper pace. You're at reunited Walcott and Bellerin again. Danny Welbeck back off that left, giving us a drive. Ox in the heart of the midfield. Maitland-Niles is very mobile. I thought it's a very, very energetic and exciting lineup. And I was glad that Sanchez was on the bench, and we did have strength in reserve just in case. But yeah, I was very, very happy with the team, and I was looking forward to seeing what developed.
Mark, what about yourself?
I mean, when you looked at the side, I think it really worked in two ways. One, you looked at our side, and you could see that there were a lot of people who were unhappy that, given that we'd already seen some upsets earlier in the day, that Wenger appeared to have, be gambling on the side and that. But then when you saw the Southampton team, you sort of thought, look, all right, actually we should be okay here, because we had more than enough experience and quality in that side to get us through the game once you saw the Southampton team. I think, we all saw that Van Dijk was injured, Ward-Prowse was injured, Rodriguez was out, but then if you take them out but they still played their strongest side, it may have been a different game. But the fact that they had so many academy players, not academy, but young inexperienced players in there, I think made a little bit more confident in what we were going to do. And again, as I said, there was a lot of experience in that team. It's just, you're looking at some players that haven't got a lot. You're looking at players coming back from injury who are going to be rusty. Walcott going straight into the side after quite a long layoff. But I think once you saw the two sides, I mean, I did wonder whether Puel and Wenger, who are sort of quite close, had maybe had a bit of a chat and come to some sort of agreement, what with Southampton already in one cup final, and maybe they'd come to an agreement of some sort.
And Akhil, what about yourself there? You were there, weren't you? So
yeah. I mean, it was actually quite. People were. I mean, as I was queuing in to get in, people were really kind of nervous and scared, and some were even quite angry. And there was a whole debate about, is this disrespecting the FA Cup and things like that? Because I think, to see our midfield of Niles and Chamberlain, and then to see our front three or four, if you thought Jeff was a part of the four, but in more of a three, but with sort of two players who've hardly played. I mean, one hasn't played in a month, one hasn't played in a year. So there was some nerves, but I think once we got started, we looked fine. We started the game well. The first 5 minutes, we kept the ball well. So you just thought, actually, we're probably all right here. But yeah, there was certainly some nerves before kick-off.
Yeah, and like you said, it was a good start. And going into, like you said about the Niles and Jeff and everybody else, I thought they were really, really well. I mean, we talked on the last couple of pods about how we haven't started positively, and it's quite amazing that with these players that aren't really seen as first string, all right, Walcott's coming back from injury, so you can expect he's first string normally, but we started quite quickly, and they were pressing really well. I thought, especially Jeff, I mean, the last game that he played, I thought he looked really lightweight, like he was getting knocked off the ball quite easily, and he's seemed to have, I don't know, he's put on quite a bit of weight. I'm not saying he's overweight by any means, but he just seemed to use his physicality a lot better yesterday. What did you make of Jeff, Mark?
Yeah, he did okay. I mean, the guy is he's a very good technical passer. You can see that. I think the issue was that Southampton didn't seem to follow the Preston playbook, and they didn't really seem to get into us. They weren't really pressing us the same way that Preston had. So we had time to play football. You know, it's something we discussed recently, that if a team gives us time to play football, then they're on a fucking hiding to nothing most of the time. So give some of our boys time to play, and they'll do it all day long. And Jeff's a very good guy. You know, I mean, you've got to remember, he's only just turned 19. His passing is really good. He's still got a lot of development to go, but he looked good. Maitland-Niles did okay. I still didn't see enough to really make me think he's definitely got a future at Arsenal. I know that Giles will disagree with that, but he did okay. But again, I thought it was a very good performance. But it was good to see that sort of 4-3-3 system being played, and all about the pace. The pace of the movement and the pace of the passing and getting that ball moving.
I mean, Jeff, for me, just looked Abu Diaby-esque. You know, when Diaby did have sort of his injury-free month or two every so often, he just reminded me of Diaby. The way he got the ball, the way he drove with the ball, it was really Diaby. And with Niles, actually, I tend to disagree a bit. I actually thought he had a really good game. I thought his passing was good. And what I was maybe most impressed with was his kind of positional sense. He seemed to be always in the right place. And there was one when David Ospina came for a walk, and he never got anywhere near it. And then there was a crossing. It was actually Niles that got the tackle in. And if one of the centre back or the goalkeeper were more alive, that would have been cleared, and actually that would have looked really good. But there was time and time again, I thought Niles was in the right position. He always wanted the ball, and I thought he passed it quite well. But it's all about opinions, obviously. But I thought it was promising.
Yeah, and Waz, I'll come to you. You've spoke a lot on Twitter and on here about the centre midfield partnership. You've had great debates with Clive and the others about it. What did you make of them two yesterday, especially Oxlade-Chamberlain? Because for me, I thought that with this rumoured Ramsey injury, and obviously El Nenny's at the Cup of Nations, but apparently he's got an injury now. You've got Xhaka out for a long time. Can you see Oxlade-Chamberlain sort of making that centre midfield position his own now?
Look, the thing is with Ox is we all know his qualities and his abilities, and he had a fantastic game yesterday. And for my money, all of Ox's best games in an Arsenal shirt have come in that central midfield role, away at Munich, at home against AC Milan, even at home against Palace the other year. He scored twice, coming from deep CM, and he just looked so comfortable. His drive, his tenacity. I think what helped him, also his ability on the ball, the range of passing. He just looked like a different player. He looked full of confidence, and I think it was more of a 3 than a 2. A lot of the time, I think I thought it was more of a 4-3-3 than a sort of a what we've been playing previously with a 2 and a 1. I think they sort of worked well. Maitland-Niles, so much energy, running around like a nutcase. Like Akhil says, always in the right positions, and it was pleasing. But I also thought the structure and the balance of the side helped that massively, because I think it's a lot harder for teams to press us on the ball, like Mark said. When teams do get us, they find it easy to stifle us, and a lot of times we're playing into areas in the middle of the park, bunching up, and it's easy to press. But with Welbeck and Walcott staying wide and constantly behaviour, like being on the last shoulder and Perez dropping in, it created difficulties, and the midfield three then had the space and the freedom to sort of express themselves, and they really, Ox certainly really put it on himself, and he done himself no harm for sort of putting his name in there in the hat. But it's always been the same thing with Ox, that he will have one or two good games and then followed by 4 or 5 useless games, and we really want to see Ox, especially in the next few weeks, if Ramsey is out and if we are struggling, and Ox could step in there. And I've always fancied him at CM. I've always said that, but I just think he's better suited to the middle of the park with his strength, his drive, his ability on the ball. He's a nightmare player. When he's on song, he's just really a top player.
I mean, to be fair to him, he's never really had that run of games, has he, really? I mean, either an injury or another player coming back has always kind of prevented him from maybe playing. But
the thing is, Axe, the one time he did have that run of games, it was at the 14-15 season, and he started 17 of the first 20 league games on the right wing, and he got one goal. And he got dropped for Ramsey, and that was when Ramsey went right wing, and we sort of changed Cazorla in the middle. But that was the only time he's really had a prolonged run in the side, and he didn't take his chance, but he's still young. But hopefully now, you never know, do we? We keep seeing better things this season from him, aren't we?
Yeah, well, that's what I meant was because you, as you pointed out, his best games have probably been in the middle. He certainly never had a run there.
Definitely not.
The
problem is, regardless of how well he played there yesterday, I don't see Wenger dropping any of Ramsey, Coquelin, or Xhaka when he's back from the centre of midfield to accommodate Ox. Now he'll play if it's all about rotation, or if, as per Keown yesterday, there is any injuries to Ramsey or Coquelin, he will get his chance there. But do you really think that he's going to get in front of either of those two or the three once Xhaka's back?
I think I see what you're saying, and I do tend to agree. But what I think is, we played a 3, and we're starting to think about Chelsea. And I think Wenger is slightly going to be obsessed with that Chelsea game next week, because that's Arsenal's chance to get in that title race. He's talked recently in the last week or so that we're still behind Chelsea and we just need to keep winning, things like that. So I think he'll see that as an important game. And now, if there are injuries, and we know there are some, and if it means Chamberlain actually gets the chance to play centre midfield and has a good game, and Arsenal get a positive result, then suddenly can he afford to drop him? So sometimes I think the choice kind of is made for you, and I think potentially it could work out with the injuries, and if we have a good week now with him playing there, then potentially he might not have a choice. But
if you believe there are injuries, personally, I just think that was smokescreen.
But what I mean is, even next week, even if Ramsey and Coquelin are fit, we know they're probably the only 2 central midfielders. And if at Chelsea he does think, actually, I like the look of that 3 yesterday in terms of playing a 3, then suddenly actually Ozil could go wide, and Chamberlain could be the third midfielder. So there's options there.
Yeah, which is nice. It's nice to see.
Absolutely, it's great. I mean, we didn't even have Ozil or Sanchez, Giroud, or obviously Sanchez on the bench, but it was good to see that we didn't actually have our 3 that have been playing quite a lot recently out there, and we still look good. So yeah, absolutely.
And moving from the middle of the park to the up front, the forward 3, I thought yesterday, which was brilliant, which I really enjoyed, was they all sort of seemed to interlink between each other. So sometimes Theo was playing as the striker, and then Lucas would go as the striker, and Welbeck. They'd all the whole game they were sort of changing. Which, all right, it wasn't Southampton's best defence, but it was causing them all sorts of problems. And I mean, Danny Welbeck yesterday and Akhil, you were both there. I don't know who wants to go first, but you could hear you guys were chanting his name from the start of the match, let alone when he scored his goals. And his first goal was to begin with. The ball's gone to Maitland-Niles. He slid it to Lucas Perez, and Lucas Perez has given him a really nice little weighted pass, and then obviously he's lobbed him and it's gone on off the bar and in. And like they do say, any goal that goes off the bar and in always looks 10 times better anyway.
I loved Welb's performance yesterday, and it's great to see a player who's been out for so long come back in the side and make such an impact. And what I like particularly, Lucas Perez, I think what we saw with Walcott, like you said, JJ, the rotation with Walcott going centre forward, we saw it a lot when Sanchez was playing centre forward, and I think Lucas Perez just done his best Alexis impression, and I thought he had a fantastic game creatively of coming in, dropping in, getting the ball, making the passes, intelligent passes, the whole game, Lucas. And on Welbeck, this is sometimes when I talk about Alex Iwobi, this is what I mean, where it's just a different option. Welbeck is in. He's always, his first thought is, I'm going in behind. It don't matter. Even the second goal, the long ball, the first goal, the movement in behind, the cut back to Walcott, all of them, that is, for me, that is everything I want from my winger. The danger, the constant threat, both sides. Even if they're not involved all the time, they're always on the move. They're always looking to create angles. They're always looking to get in behind. And that's awesome. That, for me, is exciting football. That's what I love to see. And that, I think, was a big part of why we managed to score 5 goals, because a lot of the goals came from the moving behind, get to the byline, cut it back. Can't deal with us. You just cannot deal with the pace and power and speed. And as a whole, I mean, Lucas, again, every time he seems to be coming in the team at the moment, he's making a very good impression. And it's lovely to see. And especially Welbs being back. I mean, out on that left wing, we know he works hard. We know what he gives us. We know the drive, and seeing him get in the final third and get the goals as well, that is, and assists, that for me is massive. Like, that is what I really, really like to see from my wide men. And it was fun, really excited. And he has got a great song that booms out every time it's sung. So happy days. And I'm just delighted that he's back from injury and he can contribute for the rest of the season, hopefully.
Yeah, it was interesting that he played on the left as well. Because when the sort of lineup was announced, I hadn't seen the BT version, so it was just on Twitter, and I thought, oh, actually that's interesting. Will Perez play wide, or will Welbeck play wide? And again, maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but as I said, I do think there's a bit of an obsession with the Chelsea game. So seeing Welbeck play on the left again was a little bit of an audition just to see how he is physically. He obviously needed match time as well. But yeah, he was outstanding yesterday. I think what we love about Welbeck is he'll always fight. He'll do his job going backwards as well. And yeah, his performance yesterday was brilliant. And even like the confidence was quite, I mean, he when he's come on in the last few games, you could tell he hasn't looked as sharp. But again, Arsene Wenger did say on Friday or Thursday at his press conference that Welbeck in training has looked sharp. And he really, I mean, the second goal the touch actually wasn't probably the best touch. But the finish, just to, instinctively hit it in was class. And the first
angle
goal
as well, isn't it?
The angle,
Yeah.
and the first goal, that little dink, it was just, yeah, it was just really, he looked really good. And I agree with was on Perez as well. Perez just looked, everything was, when it was going into him, it was sticking, and he was playing those quick passes. It was all one touch, and it was really, really good to see. And it was it was a great atmosphere in the away end as well, because everything was going right, everything went well. It was an easy kind of game for us. So, yeah, more of the same, please, boys.
Mark, what about yourself on Welbeck, and if you want to touch on Lucas Perez a bit as well?
Well, no, with Danny, I mean, the only ever criticism there's been of Welbeck, I think, has been about his finishing and whether or not he'd ever be clinical enough. But the guy works hard. He's got plenty of pace. He's got good movement. So he's a great player. And I think, he's not going to play that often at centre forward for us now, but he will play out on that left of the three, I think, quite a bit, because he does give you that out there, and it is interchangeable. And I think when you think about it, the one thing Lewis and Cahill do not want to be facing next week is a three of Welbeck, Alexis and Theo. Because they will run them all over the place. The movement will be very, very hard for them to cope with. So, I love him. And Perez, every time Perez comes in, he's making a really good contribution. I thought his ball for the first goal yesterday was a lovely little pass. Great vision, lovely ball. His pass for the second goal as well, just slides the ball on through for Welbeck to cut it back. It's great. And, I think the guy, real shame he didn't take his one-on-one chance late on in the game to get the goal his performance deserved.
Yeah, 100% agree there. And I'll come to you first, because you're probably ready and roaring for this. Theo Walcott yesterday, mate.
Good to have him back, mate.
Yeah.
Big. You can tell straight away the difference it makes to the side, and not just that, better in a two. That whole right side, it just seems like perfection. You've got two of the quickest players in world football on the same wing, who are just, when they're on song, it's almost impossible to deal with them. And the one thing I would say about him yesterday, he took his goals very well. But the thing is with Theo, he's not the kind of player that's constantly involved in the game. But what he does do is create a hell of a lot of space for other people, and his movement is intelligent. He's always goal scoring positions, and to see him get a hat trick is very satisfying, good for the team. But yeah, calm, composed finishes. He looked cool. He didn't go too mental when he scored, which I like to see, which is good. He just seems like, well, yeah, it's another goal, good. It's another goal, happy days. That's hat trick, good stuff. So it was very pleasing, and long may he continue getting in them positions and getting the goals, because it makes such a difference to Arsenal as a side, as an attacking outlet. And I think it also helps Bellerin so much on that right side. And like I said, that partnership, and we talked about it before, partnerships are something that we really do need to see a lot more of in this team. And I think we'll start going places. And like Mark said, we talk about the fluidity of the front three there that could be going to the Chelsea game. We all know that Walcott can get in positions. He done it at home against Chelsea. We bamboozled them. They didn't know where he was. And Bellerin takes advantage of the space created. And it's definitely a way to go. But I was very happy for Theo, and he's smashing the goals in this season, isn't he? So it's good stuff. And long may he stay fit and keep that partnership up on the right with Bellerin. And I think we've got a good chance of winning a lot more games this season. And it's certainly against the big teams. I think that right side has to be nailed down now at Bellerin Theo, especially people like Munich and that. They're not going to want to face it.
Yeah, I think with games to, with Anfield, Chelsea and Spurs as well, I think that combination is going to work for us. And I think, with Walcott, yes, they weren't the hardest goals in the world, but you still have to be in the right place and you still have to finish them. In the first goal, he showed desire to get there. Yeah, all right, the Saints defender was sleeping pretty much, but you still got to get there. The second one was slightly more instinctive, a finish, but it was a great finish in the corner. And obviously the third one probably we were right behind it. And actually when he hit it, I thought he'd got that all wrong, and I thought the keeper was going to save that with his legs, but it went in, so happy days. He's got 14 goals this season now. He's on 99 goals for Arsenal, so he is kind of flying this season, and hopefully he'll score more important goals. And he's got a good record against Chelsea as well, so hopefully he has a good week. But yeah, it's great to see him back. He gives us a different option. That word width that Was loves. Theo offers that. So yeah, and it's just great to have options there. You've got Walcott to do what Walcott does. If you want to kind of go a bit more sort of route one, like at Old Trafford, you've got the Ox to play there. You can there's options there. So yeah, it's great. Glad he's back.
Mark?
Yeah, Theo, you wouldn't have thought that he'd been out injured for a month. I use the term injured loosely, obviously. Naughty step-itis, some people may call it. But yeah, again, he gives you something that on his day, no one else in the team will give us on that right-hand side. But he just needs to make sure that his day is a recurring day, and that he stays injury-free. Because that's been his big problem, that he hasn't kept his form up consistently, and he's missed too many games through being injured. But yeah, definitely I'd say when on form he's got to be first choice for that slot up there, because they do not like playing. Defenders do not like playing against the guy with his pace and with his movement. And yeah, what the guys have said is very true, and particularly he links well with Bellerin. I think Bellerin likes playing with him, so it's definitely a good partnership on that right hand side.
It's very true. I also thought for his second goal, obviously Sanchez come on and he did a cameo, and I watched the highlights back. I thought he did really well to keep that ball in. I thought it was going to go for a corner, but he sort of did like a little shimmy and kept that in, so it was good. But moving from
it was also on that third goal as well, when sort of Perez played a great ball to Sanchez, and Sanchez was kind of on his own, you thought, but Walcott got on that bike. He was gone. He again, that word desire to get there. It was all right. It's when you've scored 2, you're chasing your hat trick. You got that little % or 2 more, but he showed the desire to absolutely get there, and he did get there. So that's kind of what you want from him.
I was going to say as well, just after the game, I don't know if any of you guys saw it on BT Sport, him and Danny Welbeck did the interview, and I've always said that, especially with the Southampton boys that we purchased, I know that in their youth academy they give them a lot of training specifically on media as well, which Gary Neville says that should be implemented at more clubs in the Premier League. handling the media and stuff. I thought Walcott answered all the questions brilliantly. I think the guy that was doing it, I have no idea what his name was.
Des Kelly.
Oh, was it? Oh, right. He was trying.
Thomas.
Yeah, he was trying to pry into, not having Wenger there and what's it. He was just sort of being, for want of a better word, I thought he was being a bit of a condescending and a bit nosy. And, Walcott was like, well, we're all professional footballers, mate, so it doesn't really matter if they're there or not. We got the instructions. We've had the instructions for days. And he said about me, Lucas, and Danny knew we were playing for about 2 days or something, he said. And he went, we all worked on to start the game well, because obviously the last few weeks we haven't, as a team, haven't been starting the games correctly as how we wanted to. So that's what we worked on all week, and it's come off. I was like, that's very, very decent. But
Arsenal do a lot of media training as well. They actually get a couple of journalists down to offer media training and stuff like that. So they do a lot. And just talking about Theo in Southampton, we actually were singing that Theo Walcott, he's one of your own after he's got the hat trick, just to wind them up a little bit further, because they were very wound up at the end.
Yeah, as well. There's a few good chants yesterday. I know at full time the Steve Bowles Red and White Army was being sang out. That's making me laugh at home.
There was another great one when they had announced that the car park's going to be closed, so fans that have parked in this public car park won't be able to get out for a little while. And then we started singing "You're shit and you're walking home, you're shit and you're walking home." I mean, that was genius as well.
Yeah, good. It's always good on the away days, the chance. But yesterday, Rob Holding, guys. I don't know who wants to jump into this first. I thought he had a brilliant game. Obviously, Mustafi, he's the invincible, isn't he? He's always normally solid. All right, he had a bit of a rough patch when he came back from injury, but he looks to his best. And then Gibbo was captain yesterday, which I was quite happy for him. I thought he'd done all right. And then Bellerin, he's just solid as well.
No, I mean, it's good experience in those three players there to help Holding through it. Holding's a good prospect. I thought he had a good game. And when he's got Mustafi there, I think one thing Mustafi does do is I think Mustafi kind of tends to lead a little bit more. So he realises that he's the senior player and he takes it on. And I thought he led by example. But Holding did well again. It's part of his development. But I think for him to really, really push on at some point, I don't think it's going to be this season, but at some point he is going to need to be getting regular games to actually really push on and develop where he needs to be.
I thought. Go on, Ax. Go on, you go.
No, go on.
Oh yeah, and I enjoyed Holding's form. It just, for me, it's more about playing him in what you could argue would be three of our other four first choice defenders. I mean, I know there's between Gibbs and Monreal, but there's not much between them. Let's be honest. And playing in a settled back four makes such a difference to judging a player when he's put in a makeshift four, and it really does. And I think only once he got caught when Shane Long got him behind and Ospina saved. There was a ball round the corner between the two centre backs, and Holding was a bit at sea. But that aside, he was pretty much faultless, and we know he's good on the ball. And the thing is, when Callum Chambers come in, he started like a baptism of fire, Champions League away in the qualifier. He was phenomenal, and he really looked exactly for me. Wasn't it? Yeah, Besiktas, yeah, and he looked exactly for me like Rob Holding has now. And Chambers has gone and got minutes, and it's unlucky for him that he's broke his foot. And like Mark said, Rob Holding is another player that at some stage or another he's going to need minutes, and whether that means a loan with Per signing a new deal, maybe that's the best thing for him next season. But the more minutes he gets, the better. And as a young centre back, that's the only way to develop really, by playing games and learning. But Mustafi, perfect partner for him, and in that settled back four, he certainly shone.
Yeah, he looked good yesterday as well. And on Mustafi as well, one thing I noticed when the second goal went in, and all the players bar Mustafi and Ospina were still in our own half, and actually Mustafi didn't join the celebrations. And as the players came back after the Welbeck second, he was just with his hands down, just saying, "Calm down, everyone! Like, calm down!" Kind of that professional. Let's not get carried away yet. We're 2 up, but let's keep going. And it was just signs of a leader. That was leadership. And leadership at Arsenal is something we've been talking about since probably Patrick Vieira left. And I'm not saying Mustafi's anywhere near that or anything like that, but all this thing about you need sort of 4 or 5 leaders and all that in your team. Well, Mustafi's definitely one of them, because I just thought he led, he really led Rob Holding. He led the team. When he's alongside Koscielny's the senior partner. Koscielny's the captain. So, Mustafi sometimes perhaps plays a slightly more or less influential role than someone like Laurent Koscielny, but yesterday he knew that he has to lead that team kind of from the back, and even with Kieran Gibbs captain, but he still he definitely took that task, which is great.
Yeah, and then other than what you said, Akhil, when he went on a walkabout, I thought Ospina was solid, just normally as he normally is, really, in the Cups. I think he does quite well.
Yeah, he didn't have much to do. There was one save, wasn't there, to the left of him, which was fairly... The one when Shane Long actually got... It was a great ball, actually, kind of just round the sort of side, and he got in. But apart from that, he didn't have much to do. There was a free kick that went wide. There was one cross, actually, he came out for and got in. I think he actually got clattered, and he was down for a few minutes. But apart from that, I don't remember too much he had to do, but... the things he did do, he did well. So yeah, he's had a good season actually. When he's played really well. I mean, everyone, you think of the PSG game, of course, away from home, and he was outstanding. But generally, he's been quite solid. So that's a great sign to have your number 2 solid. That if your number 1 does get an injury or a suspension or something happens, then you feel confident enough in your number 2 to come in. So yeah, it's good stuff.
And was there any other players or anything else you guys wanted to touch on quick?
I just wanted to say about bringing on Alexis.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I upset a few people last night by saying I didn't really agree with Alexis coming on. Because to my mind, Alexis will play on Tuesday and he'll play on Saturday, and they're the 2 important games. When you consider that he came on at 3-0. It's I just didn't see the point. It's like, you got to keep him ticking over. I don't believe that. I don't believe that Alexis is the sort of player. We've all seen what he's like and with the training he does. And yes, I know he's a machine, but we saw last year even he can break down if he's being played a lot, which was what happened last season. So I just think I just didn't see the point in him coming on, and just let him just have a bloody rest, and then you play him on Tuesday, you play him Saturday lunchtime, and what's the point in people? He wants to play. I don't care if he wants to play. Yeah, it's Arsenal Football Club, not Alexis Football Club. Yeah, the guy has to consider he's part of a team, and yeah, right, it is a short career, and he wants to play every single minute. But at the end of the day, yeah, what would he rather do? Sit out a couple of games and score the winner in the Champions League final? Or get play every minute of every game, get injured, and us go out to Bayern because he can't play. I just thought it was unnecessary. So I didn't know what you guys thought.
I agree, Mark. Really, do you know what? He joined the party, and it's just I just don't think it was necessary. We're 3-0 up. I couldn't understand it. I'm not moaning here, and it makes me wonder who made that sub. It does, because apparently Wenger's face was a picture when we made a sub before the 70th minute, and it was Alexis coming on. I found it a bit strange, but obviously he come on, got the couple of assists, and we won 5-0 in the end. But it was just unnecessary, really, because it was all rosy in the end. He got a couple of minutes, he got a couple more assists, it looked all good, but could have been so different for no reason whatsoever. And I completely understand where you're coming from, Mark, and I'm inclined to agree with you. Although we look back now and it weren't no harm, and if anything, it probably done him good. It could have been very different, but I suppose that's the game we fucking enjoy, isn't it?
I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm not sure what I think about that, but I mean, what I saw yesterday was the reason we took Alexis Sanchez was in case we needed him to rescue the game, in case things went wrong. So I think that was the sole reason why he went. I think then when you do decide you have taken him, I think it's as much as, and you're right, Mark, it's Arsenal Football Club, certainly not Alexis Football Club, but you want to get the best out of your best players. And I think bringing Alexis on, I'm thinking from Alexis's side, is it keeps him happy, keeps him involved, he's gone all the way there. And if that keeps him motivated, keeps his spirits high, then I can see the reason for it. And of course, if he had pulled his hamstring, it would be completely different, because then obviously that would have really influenced us and impacted us. But looking kind of, we haven't had a midweek game. He obviously played against Burnley. The week before that, we didn't have a midweek game either, did we? Because I think we played Swansea, was it? So actually, he hasn't played too much. He didn't start, so I can kind of see why. But at the same time, if we hadn't brought him on, I certainly wouldn't have been sort of arguing or upset with that, because like everyone else, you want your key men when you don't need them to play, not to play. But I can just see that keeping him happy, keeping him motivated and his spirits high, quite important. But then, even when he's looked frustrated, he still played well. So maybe that's not a valid argument. But it's just that those were the things going on in my head. I'm not too sure what I actually believe, to be honest. It's a confusing one.
Mm-hmm. I weren't best impressed that he come on, because like Mark said earlier, I agree that he's going to play both the games. So I weren't best too pleased, but obviously he got his assists and he done what he needed to do, and we got 2 more extra goals out of it, so you can't really whinge.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that if he'd got injured, then we would have all been moaning. So it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And obviously we're through to the next round. The draw's tomorrow. Any preferences on who we get next?
Sutton at home.
Yeah, Sutton at home.
I really want Sutton away. I'd love to see us playing that type of ground.
I think everyone's thinking about tickets there, aren't they?
Yeah.
About all the things. I mean, just on the draw. I mean, a lot of debates this week around the FA Cup, around has it lost its magic? Is it still important? And I've got a WhatsApp group with a few mates, just about football and tickets and stuff like that. And then someone was saying he puts it higher than like the Champions League, because he thinks the Champions League so kind of corporate and it's lost its shine a little bit, the new format. But the FA Cup is important. Dave Seeger, obviously a friend of the pod, has talked about the FA Cup being magical, and yeah, I just think the FA Cup, just talking about that generally, is worth mentioning, because I absolutely love the FA Cup. I loved Preston away. I loved Southampton yesterday, and to win it again would just be the ultimate, to win the FA Cup, to challenge for the title until the very end, and then if we win the title, great. If we don't, but if we win the FA Cup with that, it'll just be a nice period. So it's whoever we get. I don't mind. I would like the big clubs to get each other, to knock each other out, of course. But the FA Cup's massive, and I can't wait until the next round.
Yeah, I mean there are over 100 clubs who'd love the chance to win the FA Cup. And I think you look at some of the teams that go out. I don't think nowadays they're picking a team to go out, to deliberately go out. But you do have to look at certain games and think that a manager will make a decision that they've got bigger fish to fry. For Newcastle, for Oxford, for Leeds, who have all 3 gone out. I'm sure that they may have picked a team that they thought could. At least not lose that game, but they have to have one eye on the bigger target that season. Now Newcastle, I'm sure Newcastle would love to get to the FA Cup final and win it, but realistically, are they going to manage that? Probably not. So at the end of the day, you have to think like, well, we want to get in the Premier League. Their fans want to be playing Arsenal and Man United and Liverpool. They don't want to be playing Burton Albion and QPR, yeah? And the money in the Premier League is so much now that the people who run the clubs, the pressure is going to be on getting to the Premier League. So I don't know. I've
got a question for you there, actually, just because you mentioned a club, Liverpool. Liverpool aren't in Europe. They're out the Carling Cup now. They've only got league games to play. Should they have put more into the FA Cup? I mean, they played a strongish team, but it certainly, if that was a league game, it would have been slightly different.
I mean, look, I was really surprised at the team that Klopp put out, because I wasn't expecting him to have rested quite so many players.
Yeah, me too.
And he I think he's obviously made a really bad judgment on what the FA Cup means to teams in lower divisions. You know, he might think that maybe it's a team from League Two is very unlikely to knock out a team from the Bundesliga in the German Cup, and he thinks it's the same. And this is where people make this mistake: is that the FA Cup means a hell of a lot more to the footballers at lower levels, and it does to often the players at the big clubs, because obviously they're looking at the Premier League winning that, they're looking at winning the Champions League, and they get caught out by how much it means to them. You know, and to be honest, a bit like we were at Preston. When apparently we were surprised at their levels of commitment. Well, you know, you shouldn't be. The FA Cup means a hell of a lot to most footballers. So. I don't think it's lost its glamour. I just think people take a bit of a risk sometimes and get caught out. I'm sure Spurs thought they had more than enough in their starting lineup to beat Wickham, and as it proved in the end, they did. But Jesus, they gave them a good scare.
It does seem like you kind of want to get through the first 2 or 3 rounds, kind of rotating a little bit, but hoping you get through, and then, you know, for the big clubs, the competition really starts quarterfinals and then semis at Wembley and the final at Wembley. Because I'm telling you, these teams that have, like Liverpool, you know, when the FA Cup does come around, the final, they will be very jealous. They will be very jealous. And if Arsenal were to get to the final and win it, and then Chelsea do go on and win the league, I know who I would rather, you know, I know what Liverpool fans will be thinking then. So I still think it's a massive trophy, but maybe the first few rounds are slightly neglected by some teams. Was?
Hello, mate. Oh, yeah, basically just echoing your sentiments, really. Like, exactly as Dave, you touched on Dave Seeger's article about it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic read. And for me, it always will be special to me. I love FA Cups. I love FA Cup final day. I love the fact there's a large away allocation everywhere you go. Again, 4,600 of us travelling down Southampton. We had massive attendance at Preston. And it's just something that's close to my heart as a fan, and the whole experience, the whole getting to Wembley, the whole thing of it is just such a beautiful competition. And see someone like Sutton United knock a team out that high above them in the pyramid of the Football League, and I mean it's mad. It's absolutely crazy to think that could happen, but it does, and that is the beauty of the competition. It does upset me that sometimes when I see these games with the stadiums half empty and managers putting out lesser teams, I do think, well, why are you doing that? I understand, like Mark said, some like Newcastle really do have high priorities, and the chances of them getting right the way through to the final and winning it are very unlikely. So yeah, I can see that. But for a team like Wolves, who mid-table of the Championship and they're doing okay, going to Anfield and winning, bloody hell, like, it don't happen. It just don't happen, and that's the beauty of the Cup. And I'm just glad we're through into the next round. If we can get a nice draw at home, Sutton at home or something, I'll be delighted, because then we can rotate. It does give us an opportunity to not take it lightly. Like I'm just saying teams shouldn't do. I'm just saying it would be a lot more of an opportunity to give the rotation of the squad players. Whereas if we had Man United away or something like that, then it'd have to really be a strongest 11 possible. But also the FA Cup's played on a Saturday, so there's no excuses. There's no. It's just. I love the competition, and I'm glad that we're through, and I really, really do hope we get a good draw and we can keep going in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the FA Cup, all right, it's not. I don't think it's as special as it used to be. I don't think it's as hyped as it used to be. I think the media coverage around it's quite dire compared to what it used to be. I think there was a lot more. I mean, I think it's BT Sport in general, but unless I find out the Arsenal game's on it, I never really see an advert for it. I never see promo for it from them. So I don't know if that's just a weakness on their side, but they're still growing as a channel, aren't they? So they'll probably get better at it. But no, I was there in Cardiff, saw Ray Parlour score that goal. It was magical. Anyone?
I think what one of the lads touched on about sort of the money involved in the league and all that is probably just because of that. The FA Cup perhaps potentially has been devalued, but you know, if I ran football in this country, I would say fourth place isn't going to get you Champions League anymore. It's only the top 3, but winning the FA Cup is going to get you in the Champions League. And suddenly you'll find teams take it a lot more seriously. You'll see Liverpool, they won't play a weakened team because they'll think, well, if we drop out, especially at the moment where six are trying to get into 4, suddenly 6 into 3, 1 with the FA Cup, and then suddenly the FA Cup matters again.
Yeah.
And then if you get the story of like Wigan winning it and them going into the Champions League, it's good shout.
Yeah, absolutely great. Shout. I mean, you know, a club like Leicester suddenly this season could actually think, well, the FA Cup's massive for us. It's not about the league anymore. As long as we survive, we've won that once. Let's win the FA Cup. Suddenly, we're in the Champions League again.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Well, the next game, Watford. Do you guys see a big lineup change again, or do you think it's going to be roughly sort of the same?
I'll go with the starting 11 for the Chelsea game personally. I'd play the same team that he wants to play, but that's just me. I'd probably go Welbeck, Sanchez, Walcott as my front three and get your midfield pairing as much as possible, and hopefully we can. I mean, Watford were dire today. They made a lot of changes, but fingers crossed, if we play the same expansive, exciting football we did against Southampton, we could have the game wrapped up before the 60th minute, and then we make some changes and really look forward to the Chelsea game. But let's not take Watford for granted. We see them come and do us in the FA Cup last season. They're struggling for goals and things at the moment, but just get at them and do what we can do. But I personally would go my strongest 11.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take your point there was about, get playing them on Tuesday in readiness for Saturday. But the only thing I'd say is that, if we were doing that and we're looking at Walcott and Welbeck, that's 3 games in 8 days for 2 players who've been out a very long time. It might be a bit of an ask. So I don't know, maybe a little bit of rotation. But we do need to be careful because, as you said, Watford did make a fair few changes today, and they're going to be hurting. I'd rather they'd have won today, to be fair, because they're going to be hurting. Their manager's obviously going to have given them a good kicking after that, and they'll want to go out and prove something to him and the fans on Tuesday night. So I think it's going to be tougher than it would have been if they'd have maybe got past Millwall. So I'd maybe look at making a couple of changes, and of course it all depends whether the whole thing about Ramsey, Coughlin and Ozil being injured is true, or whether that was just Keown feeding a bit of smoke and mirrors for the club. So a lot of it depends on that.
Yeah, I think your Mark's spot on about that Walcott Welbeck thing, because playing 3 games in a week might be a little bit too much. But I mean, I agree it was in a sense that you want to play the team as close as you can to the Chelsea team, or what you want to play at Chelsea. I think the bit I'm going to be most interested in is who's going to play up front. Will it be Giroud? Will it be Alexis? Because for me, whoever plays up front against Watford should be them playing up front against Chelsea. So you want to give them a game just to get back into the rhythm after the sort of a week or so off. And then the other potential issue I can see is if at Chelsea you are thinking about a midfield 3, because it worked quite well yesterday, then actually is Watford at home the best time to play a midfield 3, because it's probably actually where you don't want to play a 3, because it will then get quite congested. So that's the only other issue, that you're playing at home against Watford and Chelsea away. They're 2 very different games. So if you're going to play a 3, Watford's probably not the one. But you can still maybe if the game's won, you can then slightly adapt just to get them ready, and maybe you end the game with with the sort of the 11 you want, or the closest you can get to what you want to play at Chelsea, maybe.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I think I'm not going to say there's wholesale changes, but I can see maybe Iwobi coming back in. I think maybe Gabriel might play in that one as well. I don't know if you'll play Mertesacker against Watford. I don't think you'd risk that, but
I think it seemed like Mertesacker just went yesterday just to be part of the squad again and a bit of leadership, to be honest. I don't think, because he's only been in training about a day or so I was quite surprised he even went.
Well, we'll wrap it up here, guys. I want to say thank you to you all. So thank you, Akhil.
No problem.
And thank you, Mark.
Cheers, JJ.
No worries. And thank you, Woz, as well.
Yeah, top man. Thanks for having us, JJ.
No worries. We'll be back with a midweek pod. Ooh, is it Wednesday or Thursday, Akhil? Was it?
Yeah, something like that.
No worries. Yeah. Lovely. So look out for that one. And like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And give us a comment on iTunes as well. We really appreciate that. And thanks very much for all your support. And take care.
Up the Arsenal.
This podcast is sponsored by Panda Design, a design company specializing in graphic and web design along with complete brand and marketing solutions. Visit www.pandadesign.com, that's double I in design, and mention Gooner Ramble for 10% discount on orders over £250.